Hello everybody. I want to talk a little bit more about another step on SABLE'S journey and how we're trying to get her back into feeling a little bit better about being ridden and the whole interaction with humans, which in many ways she feels like she probably hasn't always had the greatest luck with that species. And so yesterday we had a bit of an explosive day, explosive in a way that it started out nice and mellow and kind of sleepy as she's looking right now. And then I went into my lunging routine with her, and it just did not feel good to her. And she started shaking her head, and she started evading and stopping and squaring up on me until, actually full-blown caprioles, ears above the ground, rearing, but not in a way that was feeling joyful to me, but in a way that was kind of feeling like there was some emotions coming up and maybe some anger, something that, was stored up. I don't know. It's hard to say. We'll never know some of those things that really happened to Sable. But all I can go with is to say, okay, so this is fine. You can have your say right now in this moment, which is what I've been saying all along. I've always talked about wanting Sable to come out of her shell. And so I feel I have to honor that part of what I'm saying to her in my communications and in our work together. And if it's ugly sometimes, it has to be ugly, it has to go somewhere. I feel if she bottles that energy up, it will always simmer underneath the surface, and I don't think that's what you can expect of anybody who we're hoping to turn into a more happy creature and collaborator. So today is the next day, the second day after what we had yesterday, and I just want to see, I thought that we kind of worked through it. Every time there was a little bit of a moment of opposition and really big and large resistance, I kind of said to her, that's okay, you can have that moment. And now we're going back to work with what we were trying to do to start with. And so the whole session was a little bit of a conversation of going back and forth between those two things. And we ended up having a reasonable walk, trot, canter conversation. But there was so much sort of pent up energy that had to come out that I did not end up riding her. It was warm, she was sweating, she was, exuberant is maybe a positive word. It felt a little bit more like as if she had to sort of scream out loud and say, this is all what wasn't right. And so today she may be a little bit different, or she may have more of that, so we'll see about that. And with that, we're going to get started. I've already walked her around in her circles for about 10 minutes around the arena, and now we're going to go into a little bit walk trot, and we'll see how that goes. And as you can see already, there's a little bit of that initial resistance that we had yesterday too, where she won't really happily go away from me right off the bat, but maybe she will in a moment. No, come. So I'm going to say to her, gently but firmly, this is what we're doing. And you could see the head shaking again. To me, the head shaking is another sign of stress that's being released, and that has to go somewhere. I don't want to punish that. I don't want to deter her and say restrict her and say you can't shake your head if you need to. She doesn't seem to have anything in her nose, no allergies. We've checked all these different things. Health-wise, she's fine. But, mental health is a big part of all of this too, so we're just continuing on this path, and just like yesterday, we're going to say yes and not but or no to her all the time. No, but you have to, for example. We're going to say yes, you can say that, and we continue to work a little bit more. Right, and so right now the walk is reasonable, and we're going back into the area that we're usually working in, trot and canter mode as well. And so I'm going to ask her to come into a little bit of a nice working trot. And trot, Sable, come. And you see there's that nervous head shaking again. I'm going to just continue to say, please trot and trot. Good girl. Oh, that's good. Oh. And you can see how there is that, it's almost like a nervous tick a little bit, but she's still willing to try to stretch forward, downward for me, which is really, really lovely. I appreciate that. And yesterday we had a little bit of this, and then it came and went again, and when she got more excited, it was a little bit more pronounced. When she relaxed, like she does now. It was not so prominently visible, and so I'm just going to go and work and just work as we always have done in these last few weeks. A little bit of stretchy trot, no side reins because she's not happy with them and takes so much offense to them that we figured out that this is a better deal for her. And that is ultimately what I want from her, is just a little bit of trot and stretching. I'm engaging her from behind. There you go. Good girl. There's a little bit of that head shaking again. And I can feel how she's sort of thinking about it perhaps. What happened yesterday. Maybe not. Maybe we don't have to go into all of that again. So all I'm saying in my head is just, I see her trotting, engaging, and I'm going to say, and walk. Good girl. I'm going to do a few walk-trot transitions with her. And trot. Good, good, good. And walk. And trot. Good girl. So, there you go. And walk. Walk, walk, wait for me. Good girl. And trot. Good girl. So, all things that she knows and is familiar with. And walk. So, I'm expanding a little bit on the trot segments. And trot, and she hears the word as I'm talking into my microphone here, so very attentive to what I'm wanting and asking, and she's actually really, really sweet right now. Come, 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 so it's good. A little bit more stretchy forward, downward trot would be nice, a little bit more for lowered neck. There you go. And the lowered neck always comes from me just engaging a little bit more the hind end, while I keep a fairly consistent elastic rein contact in the front. And you can see that head shaking is still there, but it's gone away for the most part. And I'm quite happy with this. Good girl. So, there you go. So, and walk. So, that's very nice. And walk. Good girl. So, I'm going to change directions. Oh, good girl. And I'm quite happy about how that went. Good morning, Jesus meeting. Come here. So, stand here for a moment. Let her feel that everything is good. Heart rate and my breathing. That's what I do usually when I put my hand on the forehand. My hand on the forehead of the horse. I just take inventory, and we're both kind of saying to each other, we're okay. Yeah, come. So it's good. So there you go. And off we go. And again, this is so much better again. Yesterday we had several attempts of backing up and running off and getting out of this whole lunging business. And again, I can't trace it back to anything that I did. Maybe I did, but I try to be very routinely and very systematic and methodical with my training approach, and I usually build and build and build on the same things that we did the day or the time before. And I can't, it wasn't windy, it wasn't anything that would, in my head, say, okay, so maybe that's what set her off. So now I'm going to go take her into a trot again. Come and trot. Just a little bit of the head shaking. Oh, not so bad. Come, come, come. Good girl. So, good. And I'm going to keep her on a fairly short line here. There are people mowing on the property next door, or leaf blowing or something, and I don't want her to, get sort of incensed by that possibly. I always have to think ahead a little bit. Good girl. Out. Out, out. Good. So, it's good. And there it is. She's maybe just a tiny bit fast at times, but not bad. I get a nice chewing out of her, release in the jaw. The little head shaking is a little bit better than it was. Much better, actually. So, I'm just gonna let her swing through her body a little bit like this. Come, 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 good girl. Come, come, come. And just these random circles so that, I constantly have her attention on where she has to put her feet. We're not staying in one place. It's much more interesting and much more, conducive for her to pay attention to me if I vary where we're going. And there's the nice stretch. Come, come, come. So, and then we're going to do a few transitions and walk. Good girl. There you go. That looks so much better than yesterday. Yesterday we didn't get this far without reasonable or unreasonable explosions of some sort. So, and if she has to itch herself, I always allow that. As long as it's not a sort of avoidance maneuver. But, there are flies out here quite a bit, and sometimes you just have to do what you need to do. And I allow that to the horse, just like I would to the rider. And trot. Out, out. Good. So, it's good. And walk. And trot. Good. And walk. And trot. Good. So it's good. And walk. So it's good. And trot. Good. So it's good. Good girl. So I'm quite pleased with the amount of sort of collaborative spirit that I get from her. And walk. Good girl. Doesn't seem to be too taxed by what I'm asking. But she's looking a little bit to the outside, a little bit more than she usually does. So I'm not sure if she maybe, can feel her muscles being a little bit sore from all the caprioles that she did yesterday. So I'm going to just bring her back here, change directions one more time, and see if I can get just a little bit of canter in each direction. Always change directions so that not one side gets, stressed out more than the other. And oh, good girl. So here we are. Good girl, my Sissy. So, and so far I'm really pleased with her. Give her a little walk break here for a moment. So, schön ruhig. So, walk. So, exactly. So I don't want her to get so far into her head that she starts anticipating every little move. I want her to definitely walk and catch her breath for a moment. So, very good. And then we're going to go into a slow trot and trot. So, it's good. Good, exactly. Nice and slow. Good girl. So, it's brav. So, it's good. So, und pass auf. Pass auf. Komm. Und canter. Komm. 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 Up. So, it's good. Very nice. So, it's good. Very nice. Yeah. I can see there is a tiny little bit of a buck underneath all of that, but it's not coming out right now. And walk. So, ist gut. Will ich nochmal jucken? So, she has to itch herself. You have to forgive if sometimes I speak German to the horses. That's just how it works in my head a lot of times. So we're doing it again. One more time. A little bit of trot. Good girl. So, ist gut. So, ist ein gutes Mädchen. So, ist fein. So. Komm, 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 komm. So. Und pass auf. Pass auf. Und canter. Komm. Ja, so. There you go. Not bad. Also cross cantering, how she was striking out, and then she self-corrected with that tiny little buck. Not even a buck, really. But here's that energy again, but it's so much nicer today. She actually is channeling her own energy into a nice little canter and trot and walk. So, and what I like about this is that she's not running off, or that she's not like making artificial kind of little spooky things happen. And you know, you have to think always that when you're in the canter, the horse's adrenaline goes up no matter what, and especially if there's some kind of negative association happening at the same time that we clearly had to work through yesterday, and I wish I had that on camera, but I didn't. But today I can see her little brain ticking, and she's not going there. And so I'm not going to egg her on or say, hey, really, you don't want to buck? I'm just going by my playbook today, as I always do. Say a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Quiet, peaceful. Come to a halt. We'll change directions. We'll see how she feels to the other side. Oh, my good girl. Very good girl. Again, checking in with each other. A little energy. Just saying here, we're all good. Everything is fine. Her breath is going a little faster, of course, after, aerobically working harder in the canter, but she doesn't seem to be worried otherwise, which is so nice. I'm not worried either. And we'll see how it goes to this side. Yeah, very good. So, good girl. So, let her have another little walk break here, and just for good measure. Never want to go from one exciting thing to the next. Always have a little bit of, a regrouping time. Sometimes longer, sometimes shorter, depending on how the horse is. But she seems to be in a good, really very good frame of mind today. I'm so pleased about that. So, and we're going to go into a little bit of trot. Come and trot. Trot, Sable, come. Trot. So, good girl. Come, out. There's a little bit of that shaking of the head again, but very mild, very little. So, there you go. Good girl. Oh, that's good. Good girl. Oh, yeah, good girl. Easy. And pass off. Come. That's good. Easy. So, yeah. There it is. A little bit of the tail, you can see. There's a little bit of this swishiness coming through, but not even close to what it was yesterday. And if there's still a little something pent up here, going backwards, not wanting to go forward, all these things rearing up to the point where I thought, oh, this is spectacular. But, maybe horses need to do that sometimes in order to see what happens, and nothing happened yesterday. Just as there's nothing happening today. All we're doing is our work, and then there's a break when it goes well, a little bit sooner, and there's a little bit more work when things are a little bit unclear. And so this is very pleasing and very happy for all of us, and we're going to go and get on the saddle in a moment here. Good girl. All right. So here we are on the saddle in the walk, as we always start out on the long rein, shoulder to shoulder, just going in a little bit of a imaginary square so that you can, just be in the same space that we always work on for the last few times that we've been out here. And where we're also lunging, I think it's always nice to stay in the same spot or space. Not that I go here every single time, but when I start out in the middle, then it's nice to stay there for both the lunging and the riding. And you can tell there's a bit of tail swishing going on. And I am, as always, super friendly with my lower legs, left, right leg on. No knee pressure right now, shoulder to shoulder, and I'm just going to be a little bit, tiny little bit more active with them, just because otherwise she becomes so stagnant. And this is the typical beginning part of a horse like Sable in so many ways that we're always hoping that it's over soon as the rider gets on. And that the walk is left to its own devices minimal and very slow. And so I just like I did on the ground, I'm just going to say to her, okay, you want to be very slow, that's fine, but it has to be a regular slow walk. And that to me is a little bit of an invitation then eventually to come into a little bit more fluidity. But right now, all I'm saying is in my head, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, just a little rhythmic thing for myself so that I can stay to my own metronome type of function up here. And as you can see, there's continuously a little bit of more swooshing with the tail than it was on the lunge line a moment before. So I'm going to go into just a little bit of a different tact here. I'm going to go into little circles and ask her to yield to the inside aids, a little bit more inside vibrational leg input, and then she yields to the rein that I was holding quite elastically, but also kind of consistently. Now I'm going to go take her to the other side. And again, right leg is a little bit more predominantly vibrational, and she's giving me some beautiful releases in the jaw. So that is really nice. I know that I can get that from her, and she's already done that on the lunge line too. But there is, of course, now this matter of the swishing tail and the super slow walk that we're still in. And yes, there is a lot going on today. Helicopters flying around, somebody leaf blowing on their next property. You just never know what it is that brings a horse like Sable into this sort of state of being today. And you can see it's almost coming to a place where she's like, oh no, I don't think I want to do this much longer. And all I have to say to that is we are, in the smallest little ways, we are still going to do this for a little bit longer. And it's not going to be painful. It's not going to be exhausting. It's not going to be unpleasant. We're just going to go, 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is where I feel like it's the rider's job to keep the longer breath, so to speak, than the horse. And to say, I have the patience for this. I don't care. I'm going to break it up into different smaller pieces for as much as I can. But also ultimately we have to do a little bit of something here and there that is enjoyable to both of us. So I'm going to go and see if I can get her to go a little bit more swiftly. And I'm going to take my arm out here and tab her in rhythm onto her hind end. And this is something that I've done before. You may have seen it in a different video. But I want her to know that I will not compromise my lower leg position. I'm going to go forward a little bit more fluidly. As you can see now, her ears are coming back. She's still swishing at my tail. And again, we've had health checks. There's nothing bothering her. Tack is fitting. She's on Regimate. She has no, ulcer issues that are warranting any kind of resistance to this. Right now small, but sometimes also bigger degree. And so now I'm just going to say here, you can see it. I'm going to let you see my whip. I'm not going to do anything even, but I don't always want to ride like this, but I want her to know that I have these utensils. I want to change directions, take legs off, and again, shoulder to shoulder. And what you can see now, probably, if you can see it from that angle from the camera, is a little bit more fluidity than we had about 2 or 3 minutes ago. And I like that. And I'm going to do this with my left arm now. Let her see it out of her left eye. And my lower legs are very, very gentle still. I'm going to be just as persistent and friendly, but also, I have the intention of not wanting to work that hard up here. And you can see that in the ears, there's a little bit of thoughtfulness about it. And I don't want her to get scared, but I want her to be a little bit more free and a little bit more fluid with me like this. And then I'm going to go take both hands back to the rein. And now I'm going to say to her, I'm going to pick up the reins a little bit and see if we can get a few steps of sitting trot on a small circular space like we did before. Come, come. No, not so happily. Come, come, come. I'm going to do it again. Good. Just a few steps, and then she slows down by herself. And I take my legs off and I say, I'm not going to do anything bad. Long rein again. Right? This is the kind of day it is. A few days ago, we already had a much more agreeable attitude altogether, and I was able to post the trot fairly easily. Today, not so much. So, I'm just going to take what I can get from her. Come. So, good. So, very good. And long rein. And I can literally hear her teeth snapping a little bit as we're doing this. Good girl. And my job is to stay friendly and be happy with a few little steps. Oh, good girl. So, come. So, it's good. So now we're going to change directions. Just so that both body halves and both brain halves, and when there's swishing and a little bit of pushing back going on, my legs come off. Always the opposite of what she anticipates. Now we're going to go to this direction here. And we're going to go a little bit of a circle, a little bit of... Come. So, good. So, it's good. So, now we have a little bit more. Not so bad. Not so bad altogether, right? But like I said, there is a lot going on here today. And a little bit of a sideways spook, is not totally... You can't blame her for that. I'm going to do it a little bit over here, a little bit further away from that hedge right now. So, good girl. So, that's already a little bit better. So, good girl. And long rein again. Good girl. So, and you can see she's processing what we're doing. And I'm not going to do a whole lot more here. Just because I don't want to, overstimulate or underappreciate what she's been giving me. And like I said, on certain days it's a little bit more. On other days it's a little bit less. And I cannot rush that. If I rush it, I break my promise to her, which was to say, you're doing this with both of our mutual agreement to everything. Not just one person saying you must or I hurt you, but both of us saying, okay, let's try this together for a moment. However long it feels comfortable. And then we'll ride through some of the little bit more tense moments at times, but not every single time do we have to win battles. I'm just going to see how she feels one more time here in this direction. Come here, good girl. And maybe give her a little bit of a chance to be in a posting trot. And just maybe one round or so would be great. Just a little bit of... And you can see how I'm just I keep posting when she stops. And then she rushes a little bit. So, it's good. So, it's good. So, and then I'm going to give her a long rein again. Right? And so, again, it's a with each other rather than against each other kind of situation here. Long rein again. Always, mellow out the situation. De-escalate, if you want to call it that. I don't think it's that much of a difference between what we both are wanting and feeling. But, there are different ways of looking at it, and I always want to say, cool down, mellow. We're at peace with one another. We're just doing a little bit more of what feels okay to both of us. I'm going to see if I can get a little bit more to the other side. Come on, Sable. Good. So good. So, just one round is my goal. One round of just easy going posting trot here. So, good girl. So, that was already much better. So, very good girl. So, there you go. And that is everything I wanted from her today. And, you know, that is maybe not much in the eyes of some, but anybody who's worked with horses and has had a little bit of, you know, a conversation that is a two-way talk with their horses understands how little yeses can add up to a much bigger yes, and ultimately, hopefully, a jubilant and a joyful, oh yes, let's do this together. And that's how we build trust, right? And that's all I want to say about that today. Thank you for watching, and happy riding. Thank you, Steve.